Uh, my name is Howard Simon. I served as the executive director of the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union of Florida, from 1997 to 2018. Although I was called back and served as the interim director again for about a year after that. They call me a dinosaur. I've been an ACLU state director for more than 4 decades. Maybe one of the first things that really cemented my commitment to civil liberties was actually the very first day I attended college. I heard a lot of noise up on a hill, and I walked up to the lawn of the campus, and I saw a rally of like 500 people there. And I have to say I was transfixed by ideas. Some 14, 15 years later, I was the state director of the Civil Liberties Union, and that professor was a member of our advisory board. So I certainly found a home in the ACLU as an organization that fought for personal freedoms, freedom of speech, resisting state-sponsored religion. But it has to be said that I think that what solidified my commitment to this work was the time I spent in Selma, Alabama in 1965. I and two of my closest friends responded to a telegram that we got from Martin Luther King asking us to come down to Selma, and I spent time there and turned out to be an assistant to the Reverend Andrew Young, who was King's assistant. I was operating the mimeograph machines, and when you get involved in a massive interracial, interreligious movement for progressive causes. In this case, it was for the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It moves you, and it has an effect on the rest of your life. So I think that all of those things taken together is what brought me to this work. I don't think very much has changed, frankly. The battles have changed, but the war is the same. From the post-Civil War era until all the restrictions that the legislature has imposed on voting by mail or voter registration or who can vote or voter disenfranchisement and so on. It has all been somewhat the same fight for more than 150 years. And that fight has largely been an effort by those in power to prevent as much as they can those without power from voting, which in Florida means mostly black people. We dabble in abstract ideas a lot. Due process of law, equal protection. We rarely get to see some of the physical ramifications of our work. So my wife and I were on an airplane just not too long ago, flying to Atlanta, and I looked over at the two seats next to me, and there were two young men that were taking care of a 1-year-old child. And I looked at them, and I couldn't help myself by asking them whether that's their child and were they married. And they said yes, and I thought, and I had to tell them that, oh my God, our work created their families. Our work that ended the adoption ban in Florida, that created the right of marriage equality, we created their family, and hundreds, if not thousands, of other families like that throughout the state of Florida. So as I said, rarely do we get to see like physical evidence of that, but that just gave me goosebumps. And I think you have to also understand that no battle stays won. It always comes back in a different clothing. There are going to be defeats, there are going to be setbacks, but this is a long-term battle for democracy. It takes courage to continue the fight. Senator Cory Booker has said, I think eloquently, that if people like Sojourner Truth and Fannie Lou Hamer and John Lewis can have faith, then he can have faith. And I think that's true of us too. Take inspiration from them and have the same kind of courage that they had to protect our values.